Hello and welcome everybody to Red Bull Wololo 5 MBL versus Barles over here on the B stream. I am myself, Lidakor, and Ornlu welcome you for this set from the group stage. This will be running parallel to the main stream, and when this finishes, we'll drop you off on the main channel as well so you can continue to spectate the rest of the event. With me is Ornlu, who definitely does have some words about this matchup, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I definitely do have words, and of course, I just want to welcome you all as well. Just to briefly explain why we are here. Essentially, when they expanded the tournament to 14 players, there was a 7th match that was necessarily added to the Swiss stage, and they just didn't have the time. There's so many matches that there isn't really the time of day to broadcast them all. So this is going to be that 7th match that Lita and I will be bringing to you guys. And today that will be MBL versus Barles. MBL, I'm sure most of you know who he is. Very popular streamer. Lots of great results from him. Barles is the qualified player from this tournament, beating out Kasva in a really dominant set from him. So we'll have to see how this one goes.
Indeed, it's going to be an interesting one. MBL so far played in all of the Red Bull Vololos, so he does have some experience. We can say that behind his back. Whereas for Barles, he's sort of a newcomer on the scene, but one of the most improved players of the recent memory has been Barles. So I'm really curious what he can do in this matchup.
Yeah, I think that we have to expect that MBL is going to be the favorite, but Barles is a really strong player. Somebody who is, I guess you could call him up and coming, even though he's been around for quite a while. He's like the guy who, okay, you don't see him in all the top tier tournaments, but then he will be winning all of like the up and coming pro tournaments or like the second tier pro tournaments, and eventually you win enough of those, and then you get to the main stage, and that is how he was able to qualify here for Red Bull Wololo 5.
Indeed, he was, and now he's looking to push even deeper into the tournament. And honestly, I think he's getting a good opponent here in the first round because MBL, as we discussed, he was the favorite. He is the favorite of this one, but MBL wasn't really able to practice that much as far as I know compared to the other players. He now has a full-time job, so it is a little bit harder for him to commit as much time as
Not
some
only
other
is it a
players
full-time
can.
job, Lita, it's teaching people how to drive. I might imagine thinking back to my driving exams. It's like, okay, who do I want to be the guy teaching me how to drive? And I just think of MBL. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's whenever I'm going to do my driving license stuff, I will seriously consider just going to Norway so that MBL can teach me how to drive.
Noob, use your turn signal.
Oh my goodness. Anyways, we do have a map draft and the civilization draft ready for you to take a look at.
Well, unfortunately, I can't really show you guys because didn't really have much time for the graphics just yet. But we do have civs. And we will be playing I believe first up on Acclivity, and then MBL's home map is Runestones, and Barles' home map is Winged. Or Winged.
Indeed, looking at the civilizations real quick, MBL decided to go with Vikings, Franks, Mayans, Indians, and Britons. Britons was sniped by Barles. Other side, Ethiopians, Bulgarians, Cumans, Tatars, and somewhat surprisingly, Turks for Barles. He lost Ethiopians to a snipe. So each player does have 4 civilizations remaining for a best of 3, which means that you will have 1 extra even if you play out all 3 games.
Exactly the case, and Magyars and Aztecs were banned, 2 very common civs. And that is going to be, I think everything should be set to at least hopefully get ready for game number 1.
So if you would have to predict the score, what would you go for?
Am I allowed to be super boring and say MBL 2-0?
You're allowed to do that because I was about to say 2-1 for Barles.
Ooh.
I'm in for the bold predictions.
Go for it, man. Now, of course, Lita and I are not actually at the venue. We are chilling in our homes, which is why you have my webcam and Lita's very, very static, teary, loving shark.
You know, maybe this is how I look. You never know.
I've met you IRL. That's not how you look.
I mean, you met me almost 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. A lot can change in a few years. So, yeah, so we are trying to figure out, okay, how do we get into these games when they are there and we are not there? So we actually have to do it the old-fashioned way, just on Age of Empires. So hopefully we can just get that for you guys in just a moment.
Indeed. It's a little bit more difficult sorting this out, obviously, when you're not on the venue. But as Onlu said before, part of the reason why we kind of have to do it this way is because the original event planned for 12 people, and now we have 14 on stage, so they had to do quite a bit of an expansion.
Oh yeah, like, with COVID and everything, a lot of this has to be done last minute. I'm sure you guys understand, but sometimes you have to make crazy, wild, last-minute changes, like getting Ornlu and Lita to cast. It's like, that's when you know you're scraping at the bottom of the barrel. You're desperate.
And indeed, we are starting with Acclivity.
Do we have a game?
Yes, we will have a game in a moment. So, how do you feel? Like, this is something I wanted to ask you about, because this is somewhat different from what we have seen so far in Red Bull tournaments and usually other tournaments. Most of the time you start with Arabia or the Arabia equivalent, like runestones.
Mm-hmm.
This time around, it's not going to be the case. Do you think it favors someone in particular, that you're not starting with the standard good old-fashioned map, but instead something more specialized?
I think that it could mix up throughout the tournament, but Acclivity is pretty close to a standard map. I do not have the lobby, and I cannot find it in AoE. If there is a lobby ID somewhere, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, hold on for a moment. We'll get you figured out in a moment. Looks like they haven't launched it just yet.
Oh, okay.
So we might need to wait for a split second. But
oh, that's fine, just so long as I'm not behind.
Yeah, we're not gonna be behind at all. So, indeed, as you said, MBL is the favorite of this one, because he does have quite a lot of Red Bull experience, but as I said, Barles has been the up-and-coming player for quite a while now. So far, his career moment was playing in Hidden Cup 4, but this tournament could very well replace that, because obviously this is by far the largest tournament that he has played in. In fact, there's a little bit of a fun trivia about Barles. Just for reference, if you look at the prize money he earned from tournaments, he's got total tournament earnings of about $5,500 in his career. And that's a long career. He has been around for a long time. Out of that, around $4,500 was in 2021. So before 2021, he had a career earnings of $1,000. And now he is in a $100,000 tournament playing against the best players in the world.
And also MBL. Kappa. No, it's honestly a really big achievement for him. I was I know it was all last minute and everything was hectic, but I'm really glad that the tournament was expanded even just a little bit, just because it gives more players the opportunity to play in this huge, big stage. Well, metaphorically speaking, they'll be on the main stage in future matches. Don't worry. But hopefully we will be getting into game number 1 shortly. The players are in the lobby, so they just need to hit the start the game button, and we should be good. At least one can hope.
Yeah, one can hope. But let's just give them the benefit of doubt that they have to wait for a couple of moments. For you viewers, by the way, while we're waiting here, it is important to highlight that for all the group stage days, so starting today until Thursday, we will have one set on this channel parallel to the second set of the day on the Red Bull main channel. Orno explained it why it is what it is. But what's more important is that the entire playoffs on the weekend will be on the Red Bull main channel. It is only Monday to Thursday, always parallel to the second set of the main stream.
Yeah, so you guys can expect us at around the same time. It's like 8:39 Central US time. I know the game has started. If I saw it in the spectate tab. If any of you have ever tried spectating games in DE, you know what that's like. Oh boy. So hopefully we can get this going in just a moment. All right, here we go.
The wait is over. The wait is over, ladies and gentlemen.
Indeed, we will be going into Acclivity game number 1 in this best of 3. Normally, Age of Empires doesn't use best of 3s because people prefer the longer sets, but obviously this is a big ol' Swiss stage that we've got to do, so let's get right into it, everybody. Going to be game number 1 here on Acclivity, with Barles in the yellow to the west of the map as the Tatars, and to the east of the map in the red as the Indians will be not just any MBL, but the MBL.
It definitely adds a little bit of a swag to your name that you put "the" in front of it.
Oh yeah. I mean,
the only thing that could be better is just the MBL official.
XX Pro XX. But interesting matchup here in game number 1. We have Tatars, I think a pretty common civ on this map. We've got all of the fast castle crossbowman play that's very strong because it's so wallable in the early game, but then you have the very, short wood lines that you can shoot over with archers. Longer lasting sheep, free thumb ring, really sort of lends itself to that style of play, as we have a little bit of a scuffle here in the middle. But Indians, meanwhile, maybe just sort of a counterpick to Tatars.
Yeah, I can see that happening. In fact, I think we have seen this quite frequently on Frigid Lake, where Tatars sort of started to become a pretty popular civilization pick, and many tried to just go for a counter pick with Indians. Because, while obviously their camels are by far not arrow fire resistant, but the thing with the Indians is that you have something that deals with an early cavalry archer play very nicely, and you can also snowball the game really fast with the camels that also have a building attack bonus.
And you have elephant archers. Can't forget the elephant archers, man. They're actually good against, cav archers, right? So it's not completely impossible, and it's MBL. And if there's any player that's going to go for elephant archers, it's going to be MBL.
Of course he will.
But speaking of which, we will have this tower coming up on the gold mine of MBL, as there's just a couple archers running around here for Barles. Both players kind of making their way up towards Castle Age. Just a little bit of light harassment. So far, only 1 kill so far, and I believe that was on a spearman. So, pretty quiet opening here to game number 1.
It is indeed pretty quiet, which is one of the ways this map can shape out. Sometimes you see very aggressive openings here because the players are relatively close to each other in AoE map terms, or AoE map standards. However, the maps are fairly well volable, so sometimes you just see people going for, okay, go full wall and Castle Age, and MBL loves to wall, so it's not a major surprise that he's just going to go full defensive. Whereas on the other side,
Barles is unfortunately going to be on a one-way trip to Frown Town, as he has already lost a villager. This wood line is being denied, his gold mine is being denied, and all of this is delaying his Castle Age time massively. He has this market up, he can sell resources if need be, but this is not a smooth start to this game. All of these villagers wandering around aimlessly, just not too sure what to do, trying not to get shot by arrows. It's a tough life. Oh, Archer's going to be coming in here, poking away at the villagers, and this is just so much idle time. You can see here in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you got WELM, which means worker efficiency in the last minute. Pretty much, okay, how efficient is your economy relative to your opponent? And you can see MBL working at around a 20% more efficient eco there for a little while, as one archer isn't really doing a whole heck of a lot, and this is just a really uncomfortable spot for Barles.
It definitely is. This is the danger you're taking on this map, that if you can't finish your walls, even just a couple of units could come in and push you. It might be worth mentioning that the MBL is actually playing archers here with Indians, which is not out of the ordinary, but usually Indians open with scouts and just transition to camos later. So maybe Barles was caught off guard by the archer opening of MBL a little bit.
Yeah, I guess you might expect scouts from Indians. I mean, they are something of a cavalry civ. But on the other hand, archers are just so powerful on this map because it is so easy to wall. So then being able to shoot over those walls is quite helpful. Still, though, Barles will be up to Castle Age before his opponent, just selling 100 stone at the market, so he will be able to put down at least one additional TC. MBL having the tower forced out of him means that he will either have to use the market or mine stone if he wants to get his boom going. But I would imagine that as we transition to mid-game, it's going to be Barles the one who's going to be on the aggressive.
Makes sense. He's the Tatars player, and the deeper we go into this game, the more advantage the Indian player is going to receive, because the bigger number of camos you have, it just scales a lot better than the cav archers do.
Oh yeah, definitely. And once you sort of get to that mass of camels, then like Barles has to go for halbs maybe, and with Tatars rather, your halbs are quite sad, missing lots and lots of defense upgrades. But this is still a nice little scuffle over here. We have to consider that Tatars are going to get the extra high ground damage, 25 additional % damage. But still, looks like the scouts are going to be cleaning up everything, and now we're going to be seeing, okay, you're in Castle Age, Barles, what you going to do, my man? And it is going to be crossbowmen for the time being.
Makes sense, he's double ranges, and he would have the free Thumbring upgrade. Immediately going for cavalry archers would mean that he is a little bit exposed early on, and honestly, especially against Indians that will open camos, it's probably even riskier than just going for crossbowmen, because against crossbowmen, the camos kind of struggle. They don't have a good damage output against them, whereas against cav archers, they do.
Exactly. Camels just having that lower base attack than Knights really does make a big difference in that situation. But MBL, for his part, is going to be going for Camel Skirm. Now, we see that Knight plus Skirmisher is a very common army composition for, civs that have decent cavalry and or archers against civs that are going for pure archers, like in this case, Barles. And we're just substituting the Knights for Camels in this particular instance, even grabbing a quick +2 defense just to minimize the amount of damage those ranged units are going to do. And for MBL, this is all about surviving.
Indeed, the longer the game goes, the better it is for Indians, especially because if Barles is forced to stay on crossbowmen for long, that won't scale well into Imperial. He doesn't have the Arbalest with Tatars, so that's what MBL has to play for. At some point, the Tatar player has to switch into cav archers, and from that point on, the Indian camels will have the advantage.
Exactly. And we'll have to see what exactly Barles plans on doing. He is adding the extra TC faster than MBL, who is just kind of chilling on the one for the time being. He is mining stone with a villager. You can see her mining away right in the front lines, and just the one villager long distance stone mining definitely indicates, okay, I just want to kind of add in TCs marginally, and just kind of slowly expand my eco that way. This is just very common for MBL, just a very safe play style.
And MBL also loves to play very long games. This is something to talk about. He's not really one of those players that will overcommit to an early push, because he's just so good in these very late game post-Imperial scenarios. So he's more than happy to drag a game out very long.
Oh yeah. Anyone see that it was like 6-hour game time long 1v1 arena between MBL and Hera? It was like around a year ago. And then MBL just queued up right afterwards, just without a care in the world. That's just MBL things, but here the camels are incoming. And uh-oh. Those crossbowmen losing that mangonel support. Skirmishers are running in. This could be really rough for Barles. Yikes. I mean, free Thumbring is quite helpful. It improves the archer fire rate by around 18%. It's the same as the Ethiopian bonus, in case you never noticed. But still, skirmishers beat archers, and that's just sort of the fundamental problem that Barles is struggling with right now, as he is forced back into his base, and MBL can poke away at these villagers on this forward gold mine.
And this is why MBL's camo skirm composition is so good, because as we discussed, Barles will remain on crossbowmen over here, which means that you need something that deals with them, like elite skirms.
Exactly, but villagers now being poked away. Second villager loss of the game is also of Barles, but he's still on 2 TCs. He's 4 villagers ahead of MBL. His eco upgrades are equal to those of his opponents, although MBL is getting a quick handcart, trying to show his teammate Nikov how it's done. And, ooh, okay, forward siege workshop from MBL. This is kind of surprising. I guess he feels like, okay, I got a nice early army advantage, so let's just go and pressure him even more.
It does make some sense, especially if you consider the fact that the Barles already has 2 TCs, whereas MBL was a little bit later adding the second one, which means that he might assume that there is a bit of an economical disadvantage. Plus, if you apply the pressure to the opponent's base, you will pretty much have an untouched economy back at home.
Exactly, MBL just going to be so safe. Not only is he applying pressure, but his TC is off way on the other side of the map, and he can just continue to apply pressure, continue to harass this gold mine, and you know, the second TC here from Barles, it does protect a gold mine, but if it's also under attack, then it's just going to be quite a struggle, and wow. Barles just calls it.
That's a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
I feel like part of this could be that he didn't really know that he wasn't that much behind. This is one of the hardest things to anticipate in Age of Empires. If you think about it, we are seeing the villager numbers, we're seeing the positions on the map, but they do not see that. And sometimes you feel like, oh, shoot, I lost too much, I'm not breaking out of my base, he might already be on 3 town centers, and you just anticipate that your opponent is so much ahead of you that he will just call it.
Yeah, maybe he's thinking, okay, game number 1, things didn't go as planned. Let's just go to my home map and see what I can do from there. But it was really rough, if you can see here. 45% eco efficiency is not good. And 63% much better for MBL. Just a massive difference there. If you look at the statistics, one, MBL was getting a massive edge in the KD. And although the resources collected were similar, remember that Barles had the greedier approach overall, so the fact that he was even slightly behind MBL in terms of resources collected is a huge problem.
Indeed, it was. So, a rather easy win for MBL over here in this best of 3, but we also have to add that, if I remember correctly, this was his home map, so you would expect MBL, well, it wasn't really his home map, but nonetheless, I think he was the one selecting this first. I'm gonna double check, and indeed, that's the case. So, I'm fairly certain that MBL was pretty confident on this map. This is a fairly standard map as well, and MBL just loves to play on those. So, some of the more unique or gimmicky maps could cause bigger problems for MBL, but this map was pretty standard, and it showed.
Well, that is about as perfect a transition as you can get, because, well, we're going right here into game number 2 on Winged. Just as soon as the game loads. Come on, DE. Oh no, Age of Empires 2 DE is not responding. Now it's responding. Hooray. Phew. Good stuff. Let's get into this game. So here we are. Game number 2 in this best of 3. Let's go ahead and give MBL a point. But this is going to be the home map of Barles. Winged, picking Bulgarians here to the east of the map, and to the west in the red, as the Franks will be MBL. Remember, only 1 game away from winning this best of 3.
Indeed, this is one of the advantages/disadvantages of a best of 3. It can really easily snowball out of control, or it could also benefit the underdog player because you sort of have to maintain consistency for a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, way back in the day when Viper was just completely untouched and winning everything, like the only times people were like, okay, maybe there's a chance he could lose was like if it was a best of 3 or even a best of 1, where it's like, okay, well, maybe some random upset can happen, but that is just possibly going to further exacerbate MBL's own advantage here, as he just needs to win a couple games. And interestingly, despite playing as Bulgarians who get the free men at arm upgrade, Barles just straight opening with straight archers. Just, yeah, not too worried about going for infantry or scouts.
Indeed. So, we have seen this quite a lot. In fact, one player I'm particularly familiar with that does this quite often is Kasva. Opening archers with Franks means that your opponent will be forced to make skirmishers, because the thing is that Especially if you're up against the cavalry civilization as well. If you open archers, it will be very hard for the cavalry player to deal with 2 archers, 2 spearmen. So they will have to react by adding skirms, and if they add skirms, you can add your scout, which is your power unit with Franks.
Exactly. And Barles gets the first villager snipe onto MBL, so he can be quite happy with that. But on the other side, MBL has got a couple archers, a few archers rather, fletching coming in, and Barles is going to need to start getting the stable up really quickly right at the front of his base. But this could still be harassed by our red player.
It definitely could, and you see the mind games coming in, that you have an archer opening from both players, so Barles may have expected the archer opening from MBL, and this is why I want to highlight Kasva here. He does that very often, and Barles did qualify against Kasva, so he's probably familiar with this approach.
Indeed, but right now it's 8 army to 3 in favor of MBL, and on Empire Wars and on this map, it can just really snowball out of control if you are not careful. That poor zebra, what did that zebra ever do to you, MBL? Come on, man. Show some respect for the wildlife. SMH.
Feels bad. Throughout this entire tournament, we have a lot of wildlife getting caught in the middle of the battlefield. That's just so sad sometimes. It's because the players are clicking so fast that sometimes you just misclick and the game is like, okay, you just wanted to kill that poor zebra. And boom, the zebra goes down.
Indeed, but right now, it is Barles who is on the verge of getting killed. MBL coming in with these scouts. They are Frank scouts that have the extra 9 HP. Barles does have very good blacksmith upgrades, having +1 defense for his cavalry, as well as +1/+1 for his archers. But right now, it's just a matter of numbers, and those numbers are not in favor of Barles, and this wood line here is very exposed, and this is just a really, really sort of quick scuffle here at the front. It is actually the definition of a skirmish. So the skirmishers would be very appropriate.
Indeed. So we're seeing increasing amounts of scouts on the field, as you would expect. This will eventually turn into a full-on scouts/knights war later on, especially with Bulgarians not even having access to crossbowmen. That's not a thing they can go for. In theory, they can go for cav archers if they want to, but probably knights is the way to go for both players. As Barles is now on the back foot, not ideal by any means for him.
Certainly not. Getting scale mail armor, Bulgarians getting the benefit of those cheaper and faster researching blacksmith upgrades. Definitely really handy in these heavy feudal age situations. But still, it doesn't change the fact that your spearmen die to archers and skirms very quickly, and MBL is now pouncing. He has almost double the army numbers of his opponent. This could be pretty painful. He also has the forging upgrade. 9 more HP on those scouts, but still, it seems like the closer reinforcements of Barles could just barely be enough to hang on right now.
Yeah, Barles has the advantage of being able to reinforce his army much easier, but as long as he's not getting bloodlines for his scouts, the Frankish scouts are better. Once he has bloodlines, though, suddenly MBL scouts will be inferior, and he cannot do nothing about it.
That's the case, but this is such a rough position here for Barles. He's down, it looks like he's, only down 8 population, but just huge disadvantage in terms of military. If you look at what are the best feudal age army compositions, it is without a grassed out scouts plus archers, and that's kind of what MBL is mostly working with. And that's going to be another picked villager. Looks like Barles is actually mining stone. Has a dock, but MBL's making one as well, and well, water not too important just yet.
It isn't. And at this point, if Barles starts to invest into the water, that actually favors MBL, because MBL's got an untouched eco back at home. He's got a little bit more eco efficiency. So if he can stretch out the attention of Barles, make him spend his resources on 2 different fronts, that's probably going to help his push on land.
Speaking of which, MBL's clicking up to the Castle Age. Oh no, this is going to be a disaster for Barles, who is nowhere near Castle Age. Oh man, if Barles doesn't make something big happen in the next few minutes, we could be looking at a very short stream for us on the first day.
Well, that's the advantage/disadvantage of best of threes, especially in Empire Wars. It can snowball out of control really fast, but MBL is in firm control, so we have to keep that in mind, that MBL is performing really well over here.
Oh yeah, no, incredibly well executed aggression, and Barles is just struggling to hang on. as villagers being forced to fight. That is never a good sign unless you're Spanish in Imperial Age. And this is bad. Like, don't get me wrong. It's 6 villagers killed by MBL. But the bigger issue is that MBL's just going to be getting to Castle Age. He's going to be hitting Castle Age with, like, you know, enough resources for 4 to 6 knights. And, yeah, you're not beating that with Feudal Age units.
Indeed, just a couple of knights, especially if you consider that Franks don't even have to get the Bloodlines technology. They get that pretty much for free, for their knights at least. That means that MBL has to spend less resources on that, and a couple of leftover archers that he has could be converted into crossbows very easily as well.
Exactly. If we look at the north on the water, we see this watchtower built by Barles to defend his one fishing ship. This seems like an investment that's going to take way too long to pay off. It's like, okay, we'll build the tower to protect our fishing ships, but we're completely dying at home on our wood lines as these archers are running around everywhere, doing a massive amount of damage. MBL hits Castle Age. These 2 scouts are not going to be doing anything, and wow, that was quick and dirty.
It was. Maps that favor MBL's playstyle quite a bit, fairly open, standard land maps. Those are the maps that MBL loves to play, but also his execution seemed to be a lot better than Barles' one over here. Barles just felt like he wasn't ready for a challenge like this, at least for today. MBL came in very strong. And this is where I want to mention one of the underappreciated things. MBL has experience on LAN events, Barles does not. So the fact that, you got MBL, who at least has some sort of idea how to approach a LAN event. Neither of these players have massive time zone differences, so jet lag is not something that needs to be considered very heavily here. But, it's very different to play from home compared to playing at a LAN event.
Oh yeah, it is completely, like, it's night and day, and I'm just speaking for this as a caster. Casting at a LAN event is way different. Like, those guys who are there, T9D, Nilly, Dave, and Mem are all... It is such a more stressful environment. Like, it's really fun, but it's also way more stressful. Whereas, us here, we're just chilling at our houses, apartments, relaxing. But MBL is going to be victorious, taking this first set and winning his first win here in the Swiss stage.
Indeed, pretty convincing 2-0 for him. And not gonna lie, it wasn't just the 2-0 here. It was the fact that MBL barely made any mistakes here. His civilization picks make sense, his strategy choices made sense, and the execution was also very, very outstanding.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was just straightforward. Okay, let's take better fights and just have a slightly more efficient economy, and bam. But I guess that's just going to be it for us today, guys.
Indeed.
We just cast this one extra set, second at the same time as the second series of the day, so I have no idea what's going on the main stage between Jordan and Valessa, but we'll throw you right over to those guys so you can watch all of the action there unfold. Yeah, any last words, Lita, before I throw all the viewers away?
I think you have summarized it really well. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today over here. As Orlu said, we'll drop you off to the main cast where T19, Nilly, Mem, and Dave are waiting for you with the rest of the sets for the day. And we shall return tomorrow approximately at the same time with another set on Red Bull EN. The rest of the sets will be casted on the Red Bull main channel. Thank you so much, everybody, and enjoy your stay on the Red Bull main channel.
Okay, see you guys. Oh, I can't raid. I thought, okay, can I host? Okay, it looks like I can host, guys. Nope, just kidding, I can't. If the Red Bull guys are here, please raid the main channel. Well, go ahead. Go over there, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow.